I've been super MIA because I've been so busy. I want to be painting, but like, YouTube and painting is not my full-time job. It's my side hustle. I work full-time as a graphic designer, so I've got lots of things going on in my life. So I've been wanting to make this video for a long time and just haven't done it. But it's something that I get questions about a lot, and something that I remember starting on my painting thing. I felt so puzzled by this problem, and it seems simple, but it actually is like a big deal, I feel like. Finding reference photos. It's hard, right? It doesn't seem like it would be hard, but it's like super hard. I can't exactly pinpoint why, because like images are so available to us constantly on our phones, on our computers, all around us in our world, in our environment, and books and magazines, and there's so many places for us to get visual inspiration, but for some reason, it's still really hard to find reference photos when you want to go to paint. This still happens to me. I'll be like, I want to paint something, I'm gonna go digging for a reference photo, I'll just make it low-key, something chill, something fun, something quick, and then I'll dig around for reference photos for like 3 hours and not paint anything. And I end up wasting my time looking for photos instead of actually creating. So I've actually been working on that a lot. I'm gonna tell you some tips that I've been doing at the end of the video, but first we're gonna talk about where do you even get reference photos? We're gonna discuss the multitude of places where reference photos can be found. So many, so be prepared. First of all, you can take your own reference photos. I do this all the time. I always have my little phone, I also have my little DSLR camera, and I will take photos. I'll bring either obviously I'm gonna have my phone with me, or I'll have my camera with me, and wherever I go, I'm not going very many places right now because of, you know, wherever I go, or even if I'm just going for a drive and the clouds I think are looking pretty, I'll take my camera with me and I'll just take photos of the sky, I'll take photos of trees, and I'll just take photos of anything I want. And if you're not like a landscape artist, you can take photos of people and dogs, but you can take your own and then store them and have them all. This is like such a great method for having reference photos. However, you might quickly realize that you're a pretty shitty photographer. I'm bad at photography. It looks fine, it's great for some things, but I'm just not very good at it and have never put the time into being a photographer. I don't give a flying fadoodle. Maybe you live in a place where you're not inspired by the imagery around your surroundings. So like I currently live in the Midwest, and I used to live by the ocean in California, and I don't get those ocean pictures anymore because I don't live there anymore, so I have to find them in other places. So if you're a bad photographer like me, or maybe you don't live in an area where you have pretty scenery or whatever you're looking for, move on to the next page, which is looking for them on the internet, which is so overwhelming. Like when I was a kid, I used to go to Google Images, and like Google Images sucks for finding reference photos. It's so vague and it's weird, and you don't want to use Google Images. You also have to be careful because you don't want to use a photographer's photos that don't want you to use them. There's copyright problems, there's people who get upset if you use their stuff without permission. So you just gotta be careful with that kind of stuff when you're just grabbing images off the internet. So my solution to that, and is actually, this has been so killer for finding reference photos for me. There are two websites that I love to use. One is called unsplash.com and one is called pexels.com. These places are dope for finding totally free to use, royalty free, no strings attached photos for you to use as reference photos, or for you to use them like, you can use them for anything. You can use them as your background, you can print them out, you can collage them together. They're free to use. These photographers put their stuff out there and are like, you can use this for whatever you want, which is phenomenal. And honestly, like, where would I be without those photographers? They're super incredible. So pexels.com is one that I've heard a lot of other artists talk about. It's not my favorite though. I do really like it, but I feel like unsplash.com has a lot more variety of like nature photos. So I tend to use Unsplash a little more often than I use Pexels, but I go on both. I will save a bunch of different photos that I see. I'll just scroll through, I'll just like search sunset or like ocean. You can search it in the little bars, and then it'll just come up with a list of all these free photos, and then you could save them all and then have them all in your like saved stuff. And it's been incredible because it's like, these people are legit. I mean, some of them are like professional photographers and some of them people who just do photography as a hobby, but all of them are better than me at photography, which is great. So that way, I have a lot more reference photos with images that I really like to use. So these places, if you're really starving for reference photos, check these out. And you don't have your own, check. Those are like the two big ones that I use for reference photos. But also, another big one, which I think is so awesome, is from artists. You can support other artists who are also have a plethora of reference photos and are constantly looking for reference photos. I have two folks who I constantly support who offer their reference photos. So the first one is 8pixel. Love 8pixel. I've talked about 8pixel before. The best. I support them on Patreon, and I bought like a shit ton of their stuff. So on 8pixel's website, there are reference photo packs. You know, I did this. I bought these, and 8pixel offers them for free, but these resource packs. Nature Resource Pack 1, Nature Resource Pack 2, there's wallpaper packs. They're at $0, $0. However, I will say, if you are downloading these photos from 8pixel's website, I would choose to donate a few dollars if you can. I did that when I downloaded these, so I recommend that you do too. And I admire 8pixel's art a lot, so knowing that these are reference photos that 8pixel took and then is now offering, I'm like, holy shit, that's great. That gives me a lot more visual arsenal from people I'm inspired by. I also supported Robin Sealark on Patreon for like, I don't know, like 3-4 years, I don't know, for fucking forever. Love her, obviously. I've got a few paintings by her. And she offers, for people who donate to her on Patreon, all of her reference photos that she's taken in these little folders for you to use however you want. Also for use. Well, you're donating to her on Patreon to get them, but you can use them however you want. However you want. Reference photos, you can use them as wallpapers, you can use them for whatever. And also, obviously, someone I'm super inspired by, so like their visual eye photos that they've taken for these reference photos, just like, it's just an extra layer of finding reference photos that really speak to me. You know what I mean? Because that's the hard part, right? It's finding reference photos that speak to you and that you want to recreate. I also do the same thing for the photos that I take, even though I'm a pretty bad photographer, but the people who support me on Patreon, my lowest level get all the reference photos that I take, which is lots of clouds, I've got lots of oceans on there, you know. There's also plenty of other way to get reference photos. I use the save feature on Instagram. I follow a lot of... Bindi, please. Shh. I follow a lot of incredible photographers on Instagram, and I really utilize, ooh, I almost just threw my phone across the room, really utilize the save feature on Instagram. So I've collected, I've got a folder for it. I've got reference photos here, or paintings by people that, can you focus please? Paintings by people that I really like. So if you use one of these photos that came from Instagram, I really like to make sure that I credit the person. If you know who the photographer is of your reference photo, it's really nice to credit them. So do that if you can, especially if you get them off Instagram and have them like in the save folder. I really like to do that. Shouting them out is like just a very kind thing to do. And also you might come off as an asshole if you use their reference photo and they don't say anything about it. So taking your own reference photos is the most rewarding out of any of the reference photo options that you have. Not only that, it's super fun and it helps your visual eye on a lot of things. So like composition and color and lighting and all that kind of stuff. When you look at stuff with the photographer's eye, it really helps your art too, if you're just really observing the world. So now that you have like 100 million places to get reference photos from, how do you then, when you want to go to paint, find one that you like and actually choose to start painting? That's the hurdle, right? There's so many images, but like, how do you actually do that? What I've done recently is I've taken photos from all the locations we talked about, from my own stuff, from stuff I found on Unsplash or Pexels, from artists that I support, a few from photographers that I love on Instagram. I've just folders and folders of reference photos on my computer. I've got saved files on websites of all these different photos. What I did was I made a folder called To Paint, or like Must Paint. Actually, I don't remember what it's called. I took a day, like a full day, and I scrolled through all of my collected reference photos because I was so overwhelmed by how many I had. And I went and I picked images that really spoke to me right now. And I put them in a folder called To Paint. And it's got maybe 20, 30 photos in it. I'm making a deal with myself that I have to use at least 10 of the images in that folder and paint those. Can you hush up, please? I'm recording. Thank you. I have to use at least 10 of those images as reference photos for some paintings before I can go looking for any more reference photos, because it's an addiction. It's a complete addiction, and I have wasted hours being like, I'm just gonna look for one and then pick one to paint, and then I just sit there and scroll for forever. Now I have this collection of like 30, I think it's 30 images to paint, and I can pick out from there what I want to paint, but I can't go past that. And I've been working on it. I've got this guy. This was, this is only the first layer, so don't judge. But this is from a reference photo that I took that I put in my To Paint folder, and I actually, look at me, I actually did it. I actually was like, I'm gonna paint this reference photo and then I did it. Can you believe? Oh, I use it as like what it is. It's a reference, and then I kind of do my own thing from there. I'll change colors, I'll change composition. It's just to give me a guide to start out with. So that's why I like to have a lot of different options. Benny, please, I'm gonna lose it. If you go whining one more time. Oh, here she is. You're whining, and so now you have to be on camera. So those are my thoughts on reference photos, how to find them, how to get yourself to actually paint using them. Check all those links down in the description if you're interested on finding photos and all that kind of stuff. If you are interested in supporting me or any of the artists that I talked about, those links are gonna be down there too for Patreon people. On my Patreon, I also do a lot of other rewards. Besides just reference photos, I do a postcard club and all of my real-time paintings where I don't speed them up. I just post the whole like 3-hour painting video. I hope any of that information was helpful. I know when I started painting, I had so many questions. I know a lot of these things I talked about would have helped me a lot. So hopefully it helps somebody out there who's having that just like reference photo crisis. It happens to the best of us. Ooh. So I hope you have a lovely Saturday and we'll see you in the next video.